Welsh rockers Stereophonics are by far one of my favorite UK bands ever.
Hell in heaven, they can wait for you, so go and do all the things that you want to do.
And they've released a lot of music since they first hit the scene in 1997, 12 studio albums to be exact. So since I'm a huge Stereophonics fan, I'm going to rank all their studio albums from least favorite to favorite on this edition of Rock Albums Ranked.
So maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home.
Hey everybody, it's Nick here with you. Welcome back to the channel. So Welsh rockers Stereophonics are by far one of my favorite UK bands of all time, and I realized I actually hadn't done a lot of videos about them here on the channel, so you know what? That changes right now. I've been a fan of the Stereophonics since Word Gets Around came out in 1997, and I've followed Kelly Jones and the boys' career and musical ups and downs ever since. So I'm going to count down all 12 Stereophonics studio albums from least favorite to favorite right now. Coming in at number 12 on my Stereophonics Rock Albums Ranked, we have Kind. So even as a big Stereophonics fan, I have to admit that this is the Stereophonics album that I know the least. It just didn't hit for me. And I think some of the songs on here actively turned me off, which isn't something usual for Stereophonics songs, but the opening track on here, I Just Wanted the Goods, it's not really one of Kelly Jones' best compositions. The single and track Fly Like an Eagle is a really good single, a really nice song. It's a good Kelly Jones composition, but the rest of the album is a total blur for me.
Did you ever feel like everything's falling? Fly like an eagle into the dawning.
And as much as I love the material that the Stereophonics continue to put out, this album was just a little bit inconsistent for me, as was the follow-up Oochya, so I'm hoping that the next album can turn that around. I'm sorry that I'm not being too kind to Kind. Coming in at number 11, we have Graffiti on the Train.
Oh, the graffiti on the train. Oh no, the graffiti on the train.
So after being a diehard Stereophonics fan for the better part of a decade, this is the album where they started to lose me, and I felt like the band lost a little bit of their magic on this record. When it comes to the Stereophonics, I generally think of their music as being really bright and uplifting, not too dissimilar from Oasis. But I was very surprised and very disappointed when they released this dour and down album. Kelly Jones has gone too far down this road on recent records. And a lot of the more recent Phonics material over the last decade or so has run the risk of being too much of generic rock with not enough of the personality that was featured on those earlier Stereophonics albums. That said, there are some decent songs on here, even though I don't like the record as a whole. You got Indian Summer, you got Roll the Dice, and Been Caught Cheating is a great showcase for Kelly Jones' incredible voice. But it's one of the Stereophonics albums that I reach for the least and one of the ones that I don't really enjoy, so it's near the bottom of the list. Coming in at number 10, we have Pull the Pin.
It means nothing. It means nothing if I don't got you.
This is where the Stereophonics started to lose me again, or maybe one of the first times that they started to lose me. After their fifth album, their excellent album, Language, Sex, Violence, Other, they went with more of the same on this record, but with worse songs. And similar to Graffiti on the Train, the band was going more in an increasingly darker direction with the melodies and music, and I was always a fan of the more brighter, fun Stereophonics sound. And the songs sound angry on this record. Songs like Soldiers Make Good Targets, that's really political for Stereophonics. Pass the Buck, Stone, It Means Nothing. It's a very heavy record in general. And I do enjoy a handful of the tracks on here, like those songs that I just mentioned. I enjoy Pass the Buck. I enjoy Soldiers Make Good Targets. I enjoy It Means Nothing. But it feels like this album has more filler than a lot of the other Phonics albums. Plus, it's got one of the coolest Stereophonics album covers in all of their discography. I love this image of the lips, the purple and orange lips pulling the pin. It's a very striking image and a very cool album cover. Coming in at number 9, we have Oochya. That album title is just kind of weird to say, but it's also fun to say. Oochya. Or did I completely say it wrong? Is that a Welsh thing? Did I completely butcher that? Is it like Oochya or Oochya or whatever? I'm just going to stop saying it. This is the most recent Stereophonics album, and I think it's a decent outing. It doesn't really reinvent their sound or do anything super different on here, but it has some good songs. Do You Feel My Love, I think, is a really great Stereophonics single, and it kind of continues that modern rock sound that they've done since 2005. And don't get me wrong, I love that sound. And I believe they went back into the Stereophonics vault for some of the songs on this album. Not everything was recorded during the sessions for this record, including the song Forever, but that's actually one of my favorites on the record.
Wish I could fly away
But even though I do like some of the songs on here, I have to admit that it's not a Stereophonics album that I reach for a lot. We will hopefully be getting a new Stereophonics album in 2025 because they're hitting the road, they're going on tour, so hopefully a new album is involved with that. So we'll see if we can, keep getting quality songs from the Stereophonics, but it's hard to believe that we're going to be getting their 13th studio album. It's absolutely insane. Coming in at number 8 on my Stereophonics rock albums ranked, we have Scream Above the Sounds. And I remember when this album came out in 2017 because this is the last Stereophonics album that I picked up on CD. It's not their best record, but of course, just like any Stereophonics album, it's definitely worth a listen. And although I was getting down on the more darker side of the Stereophonics, I do think there are some songs that they've released where that sound really works. I love the moodiness and the vibe on songs like All in One Night on this album. Like Stereophonics, they do the night cruise, the night drive music as good as anyone, and Kelly Jones's voice really fits the smoky vibe of that song. And it's got some really fun moments on here as well. Taking a Tumble kind of sounds like a rewrite of the song C'est La Vie from Keep the Village Alive, but it's a good track, and Caught by the Wind is a really good single as well. It's a nice breezy track and the kind of vibe that I like from the Stereophonics.
Help yourself to what you want. You're caught by the wind, believing you can fly, celebrate everything.
And there are some really emotional moments on here that I enjoy. The song Before Anyone Knew Our Name, which is about the late, great original drummer of the Stereophonics, Stuart Cable. That's a really beautiful song and tribute to him. It's neither the worst nor the best Stereophonics album, so Scream Above the Sounds is coming in at a very mediocre number 8. Coming in at number 7, we have Keep the Village Alive. So after that dour sound of Graffiti on the Train in 2013, Phonics came back to more of a fun rock and roll sound on Keep the Village Alive. To me, C'est La Vie is one of the best Stereophonics singles in a really long time and brings back that fun, carefree vibe of earlier Stereophonics material.
Do you believe you're the king of the jungle? You got the t-shirt, do you know how the song goes?
And there are some really fun tracks on Keep the Village Alive, like White Lies. Sing Little Sister is a funky little number. I Want to Get Lost With You is a song for the lovers. It's got everything on this record. And Song for the Summer is a great summer track. I love listening to that during the summer months. It's just one of those songs where you can just feel the sunlight on your face, It just feels nice. And I also really love the song Ancient Rome, which is a bonus track on this one, the deluxe edition of Keep the Village Alive. To me, that's a late career Stereophonics highlight.
Hell in heaven, they can wait for you, so go and do all the things that you want to do.
Coming in at number 6, we have Keep Calm and Carry On. Man, the Stereophonics got to vary things up a little bit with these album titles. We have Keep the Village Alive, and then we have Keep Calm and Carry On. Keep. So as you can see during this rock album's rank so far, Stereophonics are a band that I will always follow and I will always enjoy, but I've jumped off and on of the Stereophonics train a few times. But this album, Keep Calm and Carry On, is one of those Stereophonics albums where I jumped back on the train. Not the Graffiti on the train, that's definitely when I jumped off. After the disappointment of Pull the Pin in 2007, the band came back in 2009, and I felt like Kelly and the band went back to their much more catchy Stereophonics sound. And this is the first Stereophonics album to feature their second guitarist, Adam Zandiani. I think he's always been a great addition to the band. And it's got great songs throughout this whole thing. I think this is one of the most consistent Stereophonics records that they put out kind of after the early heyday, but great songs on here. She's Alright is a great opener. Innocent, Trouble, Wonder, Could You Be the One? These are some of their best songs in a while.
She's alright, she's alright, she's alright, she's alright, she's alright, she's okay, she's with me.
I love the Stereophonics, I love the band, but I don't always love their inconsistency, and it seems like sometimes with the Stereophonics, every album is a crapshoot. You never really know what you're going to get in terms of the quality of the songwriting. Coming in at number 5 on my rock albums ranked for the Stereophonics, appropriately enough, we have their 5th studio album, Language, Sex, Violence, Other? Got to put that question mark in there. So this album was the beginning of Stereophonics 2.0. After the sacking and eventual unfortunate death of original drummer Stuart Cable, the band went in a more mainstream and, dare I say it, generic direction on this record. I remember I was a little bit disappointed when it came out in 2005 because I was such a huge fan of the previous album, You Gotta Go There to Come Back, but it grew on me. And that was in the UK. I was in London when this album came out. I was on a trip with a buddy of mine when this album came out, when the album came out, when the Dakota single came out, and I went home back here to Canada with a backpack full of CDs. And to me, Dakota is still one of the best Stereophonic songs. It's catchy and emotional.
Thinking about thinking of you. Summertime, think it was June. Yeah, I think it was June.
And this is the first album to feature Javier Whaler on drums. He doesn't really do anything crazy on this record, but I thought he was a really solid drummer for the band. But to me, the Stereophonics had continually diminishing returns on the albums after this. Like, I only really liked a handful of songs on each subsequent album, so they didn't really hit me as much as those earlier records. When you look at the songs on here, you got Superman, you got Doorman, Devil, Dakota. The album has the melodies and the attitude and a more modern Stereophonics sound that we're still listening to this day. Coming in at number 4 on my Stereophonics rock albums ranked, we have their third studio album, Just Enough Education to Perform, also known as Jeep. After those first 2 records, Word Gets Around and Performance and Cocktails, which were both huge records for the band, this is really when they started to evolve in their sound into some more bluesier melodies and big gospel-style singers on songs like Vegas 2 Times. But I have to admit, after being a huge fan of those first 2 records, I lost interest in the Stereophonics at that time. I really wasn't super impressed with the singles and everything that I heard off this record. Mr. Writer was a decent song, but it didn't really jump out to me at the time, and I kind of lost track of the band.
Mr. Writer, why don't you tell it like it is?
But after becoming a fan of the record after this, You Gotta Go There to Come Back, I subsequently went back and listened to Jeep and became a huge fan of the record. I really do love this album, although it wasn't really a huge success in the UK initially, causing the band to add another cover to this record, which was their cover of the Rod Stewart classic, Handbags and Glad Rags. This album may be not as strong as Word Gets Around or Performance and Cocktails in terms of like a solid track list from front to back, but there's some really good songs on here. I do like Mr. Writer a lot better now. Step on My Old Size 9s is awesome. Vegas 2 Times, Lying in the Sun, maybe Every Day I Think of Money. Still great lyrics and great vocals from Kelly Jones on this record. And Have a Nice Day really is the ultimate summer song, still super catchy. Coming in at number 3 on my Stereophonics rock albums ranked, we have their debut album, Word Gets Around.
Is anyone going anywhere?
Word Gets Around is the album that got me into the Stereophonics. Word Gets Around was released in 1997 when I was at a fever pitch for anything Brit rock related, anything Oasis related, and I always thought that Kelly Jones's voice always had that same raspy quality as Liam Gallagher's, which is probably why they appealed to me at the time. But I remember watching Much Music. If you're Canadian, you might remember Much Music back in the day. I remember watching Much Music late at night and seeing the video for 1,000 Trees, which made me an instant Stereophonics fan. And it's a rock record which is about small town gossip, which is something that the band never really returned to. And the hooks on this album are insane from front to back. Kelly Jones knows and knew how to write an awesome catchy melody and an awesome catchy hook, and this album was stacked with hooks on 1,000 Trees, Local Boy in the Photograph, Traffic, More Life in a Tramp's Vest, and it continues on from there.
Everyone gotta be somewhere.
Coming in at number 2, we have Performance and Cocktails. This is the album where Stereophonics went from being Welsh rock upstarts to stadium rock headliners. And right from the first track on this record, Roll Up and Shine, you're in for a record of catchy hooks and crunchy guitars. And this album has some of the band's biggest hits to this day. You got Pick Apart That's New, Just Looking, Bartender and the Thief, Wouldn't Believe Your Radio. Those are some of their biggest radio hits in the UK.
I'm just looking, I'm not buying.
To me, at this time in 1999, although Oasis was between albums at this time, for me, Stereophonics kind of rivaled Oasis at this time for some of the biggest and catchiest songs in UK rock. And it's got some great album tracks on here as well. Stop to Fill My Car Up, it's just a haunting song with the piano and vocals from Kelly Jones. A Minute Longer, Yesterday, Tomorrow, Today. Some really tender moments on this album. And even to this day, Performance and Cocktails is one of the Stereophonics albums that I listen to the most. And coming in at number 1 on my Stereophonics rock albums ranked, we have You Gotta Go There to Come Back. Yes, their 4th studio album, You Gotta Go There to Come Back, is my favorite Stereophonics album ever. To me, this is the album where the Stereophonics channeled another band that I really love. They channeled their inner Black Crowes, which makes sense because Steve Gorman, the drummer for the Black Crowes, played with the Stereophonics on the tour for this record. Like I said previously, I had strayed from the Stereophonics on the previous album, Jeep, but then I saw a performance of Maybe Tomorrow on late night TV in like 2003, 2004, and it got me right back on the Stereophonics train.
So maybe tomorrow I'll find my way home.
And this is one of the big records for me when I was in university. I was obsessed with this record. And actually, when I saw the band in 2005 on the Language, Sex, Violence, Other tour, I got them to sign the record. And this is still one of the most prized records in my collection. I love the bluesy, rocky, soul side of everything on this album. It brings together all these different elements of rock that I love. And it's also the last Stereophonics album to feature the late, great Stuart Cable on drums. And this is kind of the last record of the OG Stereophonics sound. I kind of consider those first 4 records to be part of kind of one core Stereophonics sound. And of course, they went in a different direction after this. But talk about an insane track list. Help Me, She's Out of Her Mind, rockers like Madame Helga, Jealousy, High as the Ceiling. And then you have some really soft, awesome, almost Burt Bacharach-esque tracks on here, like Maybe Tomorrow, Climbing the Wall, Getaway. It's really just solid songs from front to back. I always wish that the Stereophonics would kind of look back and maybe go back to more of the sound of You Gotta Go There to come back, but unfortunately, it doesn't look likely. But it's still my favorite Stereophonics album, so I had to put it in at number 1 on my Stereophonics rock albums ranked. And that is it, guys. That is my rock albums ranked for the Stereophonics. Thank you for indulging me while I went through all 12 studio records and ranked them. Let me know what your Stereophonics rock albums ranked are in the comments below. And I'm going to be seeing the Stereophonics live next year at Massey Hall in Toronto, so I'm really excited for that because I haven't seen them live in quite a few years. So that's going to be awesome. If you like this video, make sure to toss me a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that. Make sure to smash the subscribe button so you don't miss out on future videos, and make sure to follow me on social media across platforms at Nick Chino Music. But I'll see you guys again for another video here on the channel. Until then, rock on, everybody.